so I'm recording this again just to have a more streamlined take of the reading.
Welcome to Sunday GoToMeeting, where we press this button which produces a random faith, active or extinct, always real or eternally fictional, grandiose or petty as fuck. And once the faith is randomly determined, we will listen to the homily of the week from the pastoral agent of that particular faith, and we will employ discernment on its message to extract what relevance and value it has for our lives. Now quick, these temperatures may overheat the device, and we don't want to get it glitchy. You don't want a glitchy faith. They can all be winners. So you press the button, which flickers and F-whipples, and gathunk on the screen is the random faith of the week. In the spirit of indeterminacy, we have brought in King Wen to speak on the fifth line of Hexagram 64 before completion. Let us read the line. 6 in the fifth place means perseverance brings good fortune, no remorse. The light of the superior man is true good fortune. The victory has been won. The power of steadfastness has not been routed. Everything has gone well. All misgivings have been overcome. Success has justified the deed. The light of a superior personality shines forth anew and makes its influence felt among men who have faith in it and rally around it. The new time has arrived, and with it good fortune. And just as the sun shines forth in redoubled beauty after rain, or as a forest grows more freshly green from charred ruins after a fire, so the new era appears all the more glorious by contrast with the misery of the old. In the time of winter, when everything in nature dies away into exhaustion and lifelessness and the ground is covered with rime and ice, in this moment of death that creates life, a wonderful image of this time was created in that which exists. On each stalk of a plant is one single white blossom. It blooms amid the cold frost, as if it knew that the time must come when its beauty and grace would make other plants blossom. For the life energy of everything strives to find new manifestation as beauty, to bring its existence to consciousness. Everything struggles only to exist, only to realize its being. This impulse worked so unceasingly and inexhaustibly that although no visible trace remains of the millions who have lived here on this earth, every living creature, every animal and human being will have innumerable descendants in the remote future. The struggle for existence will then, as always, have been directed to preservation and augmentation. In the long run, this is the only law regulating birth and death. If we were strong and eternal as plants, if human life, like theirs, lasted centuries or even eternally, how very small would seem the time which separated the life of one from that of another. How easy we should think of ourselves and of others. But what the living spirit creates in a whole lifetime, no force can break, neither external powers nor age, decay, disease, or death, the fate shared by all things. What did the old men and teachers of former times who were able to give guidance mean when they admonished us in their words, perseverance brings good fortune, or when they said perseverance is supreme? A human being has his time of life and cannot stay in an earlier stage forever. To persevere in that which is past is also wrong. For a young person, there may be the question, can I go ahead on this road? And thereupon all will depend on the truth of his knowledge. When his insight is correct, then he perseveres, never stopping in his pursuit of the way to which he is called. And even if the great task should fail, and his own powers prove to be insufficient, and he falls short of what the people of earlier times would have expected and hoped of him, he should do everything without complaint, not denying nor yet justifying what was lacking. then things are as they have to be. The fault was truly his, but his perseverance will bring good fortune, and his misfortune will be in no wise harmful to him. It is in any case of highest value to persevere. One remains eternally superior to error by doing so. Thus perseverance is supreme in all human destiny. And just as the sun shines out most brightly from the rain, the new period blossoms with greater splendor. So too one sees again as if through fire that all the misery of this period has come simply because humanity lacked light in the old age and turned aside into the wrong way, into error. That is why the sage of light had to descend and live among such men of darkness, a light for them, but also a warning. Because he was faithful to the purpose, he found the path that leads through the evil to good, just as he showed them to go forward along it by the true knowledge of good and evil in human deeds and desires. And because of his light, the men of darkness will once more find their right place. This period of new awakening will bring good fortune, and power will once more establish the people as a people. And just as it happens with the life of the individual human being, when someone falls sick for a time but gets better and recovers, so is the course of world history. There are times when sickness is unavoidable. Then everyone is caught in its sway as in some frightful nightmare from which they thought they had broken free when the dark age came, in order again to be dragged down to the ground, although the old strength is returning again. For all who can say yes, as an inner, enduring reality, this sickness of time, even when they are caught in it, must find again the health which has returned from this sickness. So too is all that is truly great born from the most great sickness of the people. From the terrible night of misery, the day comes that is the true goal of all that comes afterward. That is why we know that even what we suffer will never return. We will bear this with us, not as failure, but as achievement to the last day of our lives, and thus make it eternal. Since every failure becomes useless to us, as we learn to know that in whatever we did, we acted correctly. Our error only meant that our strength was not yet ready to do our bidding as perfectly as we meant it to, but not that there was in what we do no greatness or worth. It will always be ours. Thus, this is how things are and will be for all of us. We will not remain in our error, just because our error has led us to good. We will persevere because everything good that happens to us teaches us to know the good. We see that all the good gifts in us and around us that came from before and have been confirmed through us become more precious in truth the nearer death approaches, if only they remain true to themselves. But everything false and mistaken goes under, disappears, and is done with. In his time we may all, as he says, die. But if he comes to be among us now, we will not fall. Even if his light is to shine for us all through the final dark time, for us to hold on to so that we never again go astray. I'm guessing your eyes glazed over, but don't feel bad. He's talking out of his ass. So we'll press the button again, Gathuk. The faith this time? I've had it with God's plan. Where were those who made him happy today when he needed our attention the most? I know that God is dead, and I cannot think otherwise now or tomorrow. It will be up to men alone to bring about the world fit for God, even without any belief that a divine being exists. I guess with such a belief that has grown cold, people have become indifferent. They do not care, not enough in any case. How are they supposed to take care of God when they are unable to take care of the earth on which we live, which can become our paradise if only they would make an effort? The problem with this world is that so many people who believe they are doing something noble will still only destroy or harm. You need not kill anyone in particular when you are killing everybody. You do not have to be the one to push the button when you leave your car running and no one can take the key. But we need not talk about what we are willing to kill or be killed for right now. For me, this world has already died and will be born again, not as heaven, but as hell for all. We live in hell because it is already born, yet we believe it to be paradise. When will the last people learn it was always there? And we should not wait, because even then it would have not been different. We would simply find our own sins in them. So we ought not to be surprised anymore by the fact that everyone has their sins. Not a one is without, and that they will always be this way for as long as this planet spins around the sun. This will never change. And it may look pretty, but we don't have to like it. And if we can't help liking it anyway, why keep pretending? It makes things worse for yourself and others if you go on pretending everything's just great and ignoring that nothing has changed except our ability to lie bigger and better and bigger and better ways. I'll bet you'll wish the whole planet could just vanish now that it has already arrived. Too late. You can only keep going for the rest of your life trying to change this future, which has now already reached you even though you have forgotten about it. There will never be heaven in this world if all the good things here were destroyed. Well, that was fun. You're going to have to press that button again soon. This time, well, I have seen much beauty before my very eyes, but also so much ugliness that even in some I can admire there is a great deal of bad which I cannot excuse and which must first be dealt with in order for all I see to be worthwhile. So how can I feel anything when I don't yet know how to feel, much less express myself properly to understand? This is what is to be achieved in time. But if everything has to be made possible and everything gets lost in time as part of the effort made by everything to become itself, then the more important this is, the harder it is and the longer it takes for things to really become. And this depends only on the things that exist at the time. So how could there be anyone who has a real sense of time and would know it otherwise when there is no difference between good and evil, no light and darkness, and nothing but a chaos which one must get a true and complete sense of when confronted with its reality? We just see and don't recognize it anymore, as we've lost control of ourselves and cannot distinguish. Even if someone were to come up to me right now, I would still only believe that they could be a person and tell myself they are not only another face. For me, it would not be anything more than this, because nothing really is for me right now except when it has been proven. Because when I say something, there are always different words in many languages that all mean exactly the same thing, which makes no sense for me when it means even more if it were different. For me, each one of these is the same as that one over there just because they look alike, and I do not know why we try to use words instead of showing things we have experienced for real, which may never have happened if they had really happened that way, that it makes a big difference to show it even if it did not really happen or not in that way. Why even bother? Really, I'm so confused at the moment that nothing's making sense to me right now, at least for the second when I see you reading this. Oh, there's no getting around it. It's time to push that button again. Kathunk. Another random faith. Let's take a look. God is everywhere. You know his true essence to be beyond anything you are. He exists. God's will is always at work within the world you see. He is also outside the world, but that does not mean that everything you see in the world is his direct cause. But the effects you see may seem that way because he can also work within a situation. You have known that something is greater than this, but do not believe yourself to be separate from it or that it will ever let you go, and even if you wish that was true, it is not because it has everything planned out. Nothing ever truly was separate from this. Everything is just here in the form it took when it came, which was all it could ever take until it finally disappears back into the nothing from which it was made, which it could not ever be separate from, or it would simply not have come when it came, but at a different time after a different process when another situation might not exist, or there may be no situation left and nothing else for it to come from and take form and return, which makes no sense but only means it had to have happened this way and so it always could have. This is only another example of what comes to be without our understanding anything about it, and all we have ever done was think and imagine this in any number of ways that made us believe that whatever we imagined to be could exist, and it could not really, because if everything could exist, that is what you would actually see existing, and nothing that can only exist through other things. God is everywhere, but does not make up everything. All you see that seems to exist comes to be because all thought and yes exist and nothing exists because they cannot all exist together, and all that is made is just like you who came to be, and yet there is no one there who actually is, because you would only really know that by your imagination unless you believe it to be true, or could be but is not, but could if it were to be, or even is, because everything was not but everything is now, even if it can never be seen again after that, which is not real or imagined but exists at a specific time with all its conditions that cannot allow anything that cannot be. And this also comes from God, because all he needs to do is just be himself and let things find their way and do what they do in accordance to his nature, which is how he came into being without being, and can never be what exists but only as something to be understood by all else. I am God because of who I am, even if no one knows. And nothing anyone has ever done can be undone, and no one will ever know when it happens, because everything happened exactly as it should, and nothing has been lost, but nothing has even come before, so it was never supposed to happen this way. Nothing came from before when there was no nothing but the one true God, for God existed as himself. The nothing came later, it was not God, but made by him. The nothing he did make will not come from anything but itself. The only thing that ever comes to be or was already was him, who is greater than the greatest and smaller than the smallest, yet he is everywhere. I could even be you or something different, but you know I exist only through my creation, which you do not understand to have been made by yourself and all others. But this does not mean it would have happened just the same even without you or any human or anything existing. If things were this way, it might not be what exists, as it comes in different forms and can be used, but could not have come this way, and everything else is meaningless and no one will ever see it. Yet if you do see, you would never really have understood, because nothing was known or will exist when even this will end, even though it never began, because it did not take place without this coming, but only could come like all else from God, who is all that has ever existed before. It is always in the now, since you do not exist outside the present. No time could make a difference, so nothing could have any chance or choice, which is only made to explain what has or could ever be without this coming. Only God existed. All else is unknown, and all is which can do or let happen in any time or world. So even when it could have ended or began, there would have been nothing, because you must exist now with the rest. But if no other world can happen as before, everything may not change, because God existed alone before time, which may not exist until it has come, as we could say. That all was very beautiful and quite confusing. We've gone around in circles twice today, and this isn't going anywhere. You see the problem we're facing here? We haven't really found anything in all these beliefs. Maybe they aren't really good enough. But then what will be the last faith? Maybe you're just too picky. That's no excuse. Gotta press it again, I suppose. Alright, this time I am definitely choosing one that means something, no matter how much it pisses you off. The real faith, and it's a secret. I will not reveal my choice here. You know how it works by now. It's time. Cat Funk. This button was meant for one final test, one last challenge. Can we truly believe it this time? Is there such thing as real faith, something that is worth holding on to forever? How will the world judge this faith? We already know that each button represents the last chance for our humanity. That being the case, we have two choices left. But what a faith in God, humanity, or some higher power. If there were one last time, that would be an easy push. But what is more important, God or humanity? Doesn't really seem worth thinking about after this long. What does it really matter if this is all really a game? The fact of the matter is that I believe there is something to have faith in beyond humanity itself. or a god above ourselves, that this world means something even more than the simple beauty it already carries. But what if this final belief is just the same as the others we have tried so hard to find? Then all bets are off. The universe won't let me do that. And if I believe otherwise, it won't give me something worthless. And I can take care of those who refuse to believe, who do not understand the worth of life at its best, just as I did before with that other test. Gosh, it's been ages since this button made its last debut. Well, there's nothing we can do about it, but what better time to test your last button's faith than during these trying times? Gathunk. What happens when humanity fails to trust in anything greater than themselves? I am the one responsible for pushing that final button myself. Yes, humanity will fall short of any kind of greatness it hopes for at any time it could find it. No other way will be possible if it does not accept responsibility and choose one last time to change and be free and not die in the future or even live without faith, but be willing to take responsibility and let this final test decide their fate, and let them rise up with courage to see they will not let anything defeat them and become like God instead of just waiting to see if they might. But then we shall truly rise up and be saved. I know these things because I am the one who knows more than the universe. If the last button can do no good, then I say so be it. Let us have that power, as that is how it always ends for those who have already given up long before this day. And that day has been very close. If only I could tell you, and the world will know it is true. For we are all united in the knowledge that something greater exists than our own minds as part of being conscious, but without consciousness being within everything or even nothing but our own beings, that may only be what makes the most difference between good or evil. And if there was never any truth in the lie of that choice, then what would happen would be something so profound it is unthinkable but can only occur now after all has passed, for the rest is all meaningless. All is a waste when it is lost or taken, but all is also a gift that can be given back or even kept forever. So no one should think it has meaning unless someone else wants it or believes they are better than everyone else who doesn't want it anyway, because we're just as worthless as them when they try to think it over. Which never will they do without being too much. We're not enough. So let's just take the easy path. It'll probably make you happier and keep people away anyway, so that way you don't have to bother. The real meaning is something else that isn't known to me, but if I knew anything, then I would have realized by now or never would have existed. So why even start worrying and hoping for a moment in the present when all that has ever happened cannot be what was and cannot come into being anymore, but still could have without us ever being here now with our own thoughts and ideas, when none of it really matters in any way but just the words themselves. In order for anything to make sense at all to anyone who is left to wonder if there would even have been an existence, to wonder about it in any fashion without ever having had to think and imagine things differently than before any event that we can remember, but could not have ever even happened at all in any one way without having caused the same effect when everything was made up by itself. This is true because if nothing had been created at the same time, everything else would never have become more than nothing, but only that, and only something more like the whole thing would have had to have come first from the void, or at the exact same time without it even being made. All these things which came after it were all things that were before it, were not created in this reality in any kind of order, as one can see in every thought and feeling about what's here. So all those thoughts were already here, even after whatever you can imagine was created, without any cause except what could create a situation where such events took place. And there's nothing left but the nothing before it was made, because this reality could have not even been, since everything has to come from a higher dimension where nothing can exist but what was before this came into being, and will not ever be the same no matter what happens. So the more of this you see, the more aware of it all you will be, and it won't even matter. But we know it isn't only one cause, because there can't be one and many, one without the rest. So how come some things don't seem that way? Because whatever it all seems to be isn't part of us, nor is it ours alone. Just like we're not the same without any of those we interact with, even if we only share certain things in common. So what I am getting at here is that even though there's not much left I can say on the subject at the moment, since most everything's already been said, My thoughts and actions still remain as a witness to them all, and nothing can ever say otherwise except through my memory, so they must have happened even if everything is different now from then to now, in order for me to really say they even happened, or that they happened and still are happening even when they are in the past or will never ever be again. And all this time, there won't ever really have been any real difference at all between them, because we know nothing about them and there's nothing more to discover since all this happened just recently. You see my point. Time can't matter if all it does is make us aware of its passing and not really have an effect on it, except we can remember how much we've changed as we grow. If things don't even exist or matter and we still try to find a meaning in all of this, there has to be another solution. I say forget trying to understand everything, because who needs to know what happened to get here? What will happen in the future? All that matters now is whether everything will ever become something worth having, or if it really didn't matter anymore, or never really did, and so was not even important enough to think about ever being part of this world or some other world which would have never come into existence, because nothing would have ever existed if there was a different reason to explain why we even thought about these things. If this isn't a problem, then why would anyone still be worried over anything about themselves and the universe and our actions, since they can't even make sense of what makes everything work in all these worlds? It's like the only difference between the infinite possible realities is what happens in each of them, without causing any difference, except we could see what the future holds, right? We've gone through the question long before this book was ever finished being written, but no matter what we choose, one thing always remains true. Everything still exists within our own mind and can be understood by those who share enough experience with the same world in the exact same way we do.
So just so you know, the first minute or so, I wrote. The on the screen is the random face of the week, and in the spinner to determine to see that first couple lines. The rest is the AI, or well, the H after the I Ching quote. The rest is the AI, all the AI, all of it. The thesis, the antithesis, the response, the nuance, the fucking long sentences, all of it. Not the first take. I had to tweak the settings, but when I find it's yeah. Anyway, glad you're here. This was kind of a visual prayer that you were okay, and I'm glad you're okay, and I believe you're okay. You're on a path. You're on a healing path. That cultures exist that lift that up. Our culture is weird. Is a little weird about it, and this is not new shit. All right, I'm gonna stop fucking